And hi.
Hello.
How you doing, Amy?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. I'll move this a little closer to you.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. Big hellos. Write your name and your location into the comments box. Sometimes it takes a minute or so for it to populate. That's why we want you to do it now. No hesitation. Don't delay. And you can also start writing in your questions. If you have questions, if you came to the call already knowing that you've got a whole bag of questions, then go ahead and put them in.
It's like you're having coffee here with us. We're going to sit down. We're going to answer all the questions that you have. What do you need? Water?
No, no coffee.
Coffee. We're not coffee drinkers, but if you're a coffee drinker, make sure you have whatever you need because we're gonna go through and answer all of the questions that arise for you. And I know some of you may be new to us.
That's right. You know, we're sitting in our house, so sometimes we can't see you, so we don't know if we know you or not. Sometimes we forget that maybe we've never met. So this is Amy Port,
Hello.
and I'm Michael Port, and we share the same last name because we're married, and we're also business partners. We were business partners before we got married, so we've known each other for a long time now, and we help you become a better public speaker and performer, and we make that guaranteed. It's 100% guaranteed. We can't promise that we can turn you into Winston Churchill or Martin Luther King. I am, for one, no Martin Luther King or Winston Churchill myself, but we can make you better, and that's important. We don't compete. We're not trying, to be better than anyone else as performers, but each one of us individually develops our own style, and we just keep getting a little bit better every day by developing more skill. So we run Heroic Public Speaking, and we did this. We set this up so that we can do two things. Number one, answer any questions you have. It's nice to connect in this way and just have an opportunity to sort of kick back and talk about this work, and also to introduce you to Heroic Public Speaking Live, which is February 15, 16, and 17 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it will be much warmer than it is here on the East Coast.
It has to be. It's about 29 degrees right now.
Yeah. If we go to Florida and it's 29 degrees, I'll be very unhappy. We'll immediately say, no, we're moving, and everybody going to the West Coast. That's right. I like that idea.
Not a bad idea.
So we're going to talk about that at the end, about the second half of our time together. And we'll answer any questions that you have about it. We'll also give you a rundown of the event and how it works. See if it might be something that you're interested in attending. And we'll also give you a discount, special discount, because you're here today, that will lower your price. And we will announce that discount at the end. And we'll give you the link to access that discount at the end as well.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm seeing comments and questions rolling in here.
Great. It seems that most people are hearing us okay, so I don't know if there's any problems there. Write in if you're not hearing us. Linda said she's not hearing anything. I'm not sure if that's us. Hopefully it's not us. Hopefully in this case you just can turn up some volume, and maybe that will make a difference for you. But go ahead and just let us know. Make sure that you're hearing us fine. Always got to check the technology. And I love it that I'm already seeing a lot of questions rolling in. That's great. This way, we've got our list and we know how to budget our time, make sure we can get all of your questions answered. Okay, so if you are also new to us, I've been doing this kind of work since 2003. Amy is an entrepreneur also. She had another business before we started working together, but I started with Book Yourself Solid in 2003, and that's now 13 years ago. And since then, I've written 6 books, and New York Times bestsellers, Wall Street Journal bestsellers, USA Today bestsellers, Publishers Weekly weekly bestsellers. They've been selected by 1-800-CEO Read as one of my books was the best sales book of 2008. Amazon editorial board selected that same book as one of the best books of 2008 for them in business. So I started teaching people how to get clients. That's what I did really for the first 10 years of my career with the Book Yourself Solid system. And over the last 3 years, we started developing all of the intellectual property around and for heroic public speaking. And Steal the Show, my book, introduces a lot of that intellectual property. But for us, performing has been a way of life forever. I mean, this is what we did. You know, both of us were professional actors. Amy has her master's from Yale, the Yale School of Drama in acting. And while she was at Yale, I was at the graduate acting program at NYU getting a master's. And then we worked professionally. Amy premiered and starred in some of the biggest regional theater shows in the country for
did
years.
A lot of commercials.
A lot of commercials. She was very good at the industrials because she's quite clever and she could rattle off medical lingo terms like nobody's business.
They liked me for the medical students introducing new diabetes drugs.
That's exactly right. And I did a lot of TV and some film and a lot of voiceovers. Voiceovers was my bread and butter. But I was on shows like Sex and the City and Third Watch and Law and Order, 100 Center Street, Down to Earth. That was a film. I was in the Pelican Brief. It was the first thing I ever did. And it's the first audition I ever had. I'm like, oh my God, this is easy. I just went in and got a role in a big film. That was great. It's not exactly how it works out over time. So you may remember some of the voiceover. You may remember my voice from the old days. You wouldn't have recognized it then, but I used to do the 1-800-CALL-ATT. And you'd hear that a lot. Great. Good. So people can hear, which is great. Very excited to participate. So let's say hi to a few of the folks. Hey, Brian from Minneapolis. Hey, Kendall. Hey, Kendall, how are you? I recognize your name. Jeremy, Mel, Linda, Steve, Juan Pablo Labra, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Sherry Brantley, Leah Bruno, fantastic. So let us do this. Let's just tell you again that we're going to introduce Heroic Public Speaking Live in the second half of our time together today. And in the first half, we're going to answer your questions. So make sure you put your questions into the comment box on the Google Plus page where you're watching this. And then we will go through all the questions that we get. And you can ask follow-up questions. Just be sure not to wait till the end to put them in, because at the end, we're going to want to tell you about the discount that we have for Heroic Public Speaking Live in Florida, February 15th, 16th, and 17th. And if you can't come to that, you're going to get a lot of value just out of hearing the answers to the questions that your peers ask here today.
Perfect.
Okay. So there was a question that popped up really right when we signed on that I want to start with, because I think it will give a good framework. Let's see. Here it is. So Brian asked, he says, I've watched the 2 coaching videos you posted. I know that TED-style talks are an impressive format, and your participants were very skilled at developing theirs. Is your program geared primarily toward TED Talks, or do you also work on full-length keynotes as well? So thanks for the compliment, and thanks for the question, Brian. We work on all kinds of presentations. Anywhere performance is needed, we show up like superheroes.
And sometimes that's sales presentations. Sometimes that's working with people on their pitches. Sometimes that's TED Talks or keynotes. Sometimes people are just looking at, how do I get my message out? How do I deliver a quarterly meeting or quarterly review? Yeah. And so whatever the circumstances are that you're needing to do public speaking in, and there are probably a multitude of them, we can work with you on that. The system that we've developed is applicable to any kind of public speaking. We dare say even a first date, or that's what we used to say. And then we grew to saying, even when meeting your future in-laws, or now as is.
Yeah, well, any high stakes situation has elements of performance. And the key is authentic performance, always essential. You know, if you manufacture emotion, if you pretend you're something other than you are, whether you're on stage or off stage, people are going to see right through you. And so we want people to see into you, not through you. There's a big difference between those two things. And right now, and for the last few years, TED-style talks have been the rage. So often people are asked to give those short speeches. But, you know, they'll go out of fashion at some point, and there'll be some other style that becomes popular, maybe 3 minutes or 3 hours. It'll be like a marathon of speeches. So for us, we are agnostic. We don't really care what kind of presentation you're working on. We can add value from the performance side, no matter what presentation you're working on. Now, with that said, what we teach applies to all of these presentations. And if you're working on one, let's say you're working on a keynote right now, if you become a better speaker, a better performer, and you develop the skills necessary to be a better performer, those skills translate. They apply to all other mediums. And we liken it to an actor, because we were both actors. If you are a trained actor in the theater and you have been trained in doing the classics, Shakespeare, Chekhov, etc., you are then able to move into virtually any other medium. So you can then move into film. And there's a slight adjustment because there are techniques that are different, but you can pick them up quite quickly because your skills will apply. You can then move into TV, and there's some TV is shot with 3 cameras, and they're actually editing while you shoot, the way the soaps do. And some are shot the way film is shot. So when you do this kind of work, if you get better at performing in a TED style talk, then you're going to get better at performing in a longer keynote. If you get better at performing in a longer keynote, you're also going to get better at delivering on webinars. If you get better at delivering on webinars, you're going to get better at delivering in workshops, etc. So it's all part and parcel of the same thing. It's skills that apply to performance. And then that's what we're working on. And that's what's key.
That's beautifully put.
Thank you. Okay. Next question.
We have Juan Pablo.
Yeah. Juan Pablo, go ahead.
He says, I'm an engineering professor in a university based in Santiago, Chile. I use the power of stories to clarify the topics that I teach, but sometimes the topics are highly conceptual and I feel I lose the attention of my students. I would like to introduce more humor to my classes and be funnier, but I fear that students will remember better the joke instead of my key messages. What are your recommendations to introduce humor in an academic environment and about balancing humor with seriousness? Thanks.
This is something that we address often. In fact, at Heroic Public Speaking Live, one of our colleagues, Ron Tite, is coming to give a presentation on how everyone's a comedian, or at least should be. He's a professional comedian and one of the most in-demand keynoters on the circuit. And he also owns a digital marketing firm with, I think, 25 or 50 employees, and they work for the biggest brands in the country. So he's very, very experienced as a keynoter and a comedian. He even hosts a TV show in Canada. There's nothing this guy doesn't do. And I asked him to come because I want him to help you improve your ability to make people laugh, but also to understand when to use humor, how to use humor, and to make connection using humor. It's interesting. If, let's say one of our boys, we have 2 boys and a little girl, one of our boys, Jake's in the 5th grade. So let's say he has a math teacher who he just loves, absolutely loves. This math teacher keeps them rolling in the aisles, nonstop, all day, laughing, laughing, laughing. But they don't learn a lot of math. Is that a good math teacher? Probably not. If you go to a comedy club and you don't laugh at all, but you learn a lot of math,
that doesn't work either.
That's not a great comedian. So one of the key responsibilities that we have as performers is to understand our role. What is our job? And interestingly enough, different environments and different types of presentations require that we play different roles. So when you're keynoting, your role is slightly different than when you're doing a breakout session or even a workshop. Each one of those have specific responsibilities, or the role you're playing has specific responsibilities in each one of those. And so for the keynote, your job may be to do just that, to strike a key note, to create an emotional connection, to create an emotional experience. Now, I'm not saying emotional connections and experiences are not relevant or present in workshops or breakout sessions, but you may have a specific responsibility there that is different than in the breakout, and the breakout might be the information you need to do X, Y, and Z. Whereas the workshop is, we're actually going to do the work in this session so that you don't have to do it at home. And then you're going to play, you're going to have a different role, different responsibilities. So we always look at that at the beginning, but we should never try to be funny for funny's sake. Although I think one of the most effective ways to make connection with people is through humor. And of course, when you are the expert up there, supposed to be teaching and pontificating, self-deprecating humor is wonderful. Self-deprecating humor is not cut your legs off so nobody respects you kind of humor. They're two very different things. We were giving a master class in DC. Do you remember this?
Yes, of course I do. And there was a woman who had heard us speak about self-deprecating humor and the value of it. And she got up and began her speech with, I know you don't want to be here. I know you don't want to listen to me. I really might not even know that much here, but I'm going to do what I can. And we went, no, stop right there, because that's an example of cutting your legs out from under you.
Yeah.
Which is very different from saying, I went to Yale, and I know nothing, whatever it is that you want to throw out there, but that you still have the credibility. You want to still have the credibility to be expert at speaking at what you're speaking on.
One of the things that's interesting about speaking, which is a little different than, say, acting, and I think it applies to acting too. For example, if you go see a Broadway play and you know that Meryl Streep is in it, automatically you're going to think she's going to give a great performance.
That's right.
Because it's Meryl Streep. So you're primed for her to give a great performance. And if she flubs something, you might think she did it intentionally. Oh, well, that was Meryl. Of course, she did that intentionally.
You give her the benefit of the doubt.
You give her the benefit of the doubt. But it's still different in the world of speaking. With the world of, and if the president shows up and you like his politics, then you give him the benefit of the doubt. So your status certainly influences the way people respond to you. Now, it's unlikely you're either Meryl Streep or the president. And so often your audience that'd be really cool.
That would be really cool if
hey,
Meryl was out
how
there.
Are you? Mr. President, thank you so much for coming. You gave the State of the Union last night. Maybe you should have come the day before to this and could have helped. But so
in all likelihood, you're not Meryl.
Yes. So you're not Meryl. And the audience often doesn't know you before you start. So your bio is a critical component of your speech. People often think that the speech starts when they walk on stage or in front of the room if there's no stage. But the bio actually is where it starts because it's the introduction to you. So you want people to know that you know what they want to know before you open your mouth, because then they will extend some credibility to you. So often the shorter the bio, the more impressive you are. When you're introducing Bill Gates, you don't need to say, Bill Gates started a software company in 1970. You go, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Gates, or ladies and gentlemen, Warren Buffett. That's about all you need. And sometimes when the bio is long and just goes on and on and on, it's a suggestion that, oh, well, maybe they don't really have that much to stand on. But you need just enough to get them to go, okay, they know what I need to know. And then because there's often some oppressive statistics in your bio, you might seem all that. So if someone reads, oh, Michael Porter's a New York Times bestselling author of 6 books and blah, 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 and he's won this and that, and he's got, all these things, people could sit and go, oh, okay, all right, show me what you got, buddy. All right, the guy's going to come out and he's going to be a big know-it-all, and he's going to be like, listen, here's what you have to do. And that's definitely not my style. So I might open with something that's self-deprecating. So I have from time to time been known to ask them if I can tell them a secret. Now, when you tell stories, you never say, can I tell you a story? That's something else entirely. But in this case, it's a choice at the very beginning to say, can I tell you a secret? And then wait, and they go, okay. Because they're not going to reject me at the beginning, not right away. I say, okay, lean in. And I want everybody to lean in. So I get everybody, and if there's 5,000 people there, and there's a few not, I'll just wait for them. Okay, you guys come too. And then everybody looks at them, and if there's 4,964 people looking at you, you go, okay. And then you lean in. So I go, how can you tell how much BS exists in any one particular field or industry? Pause, pause, pause. Count the number of books written about it. And I've written 6. So what does that tell you? And then it gets a laugh, and then they're like, okay, he's got a sense of humor. He knows, and so then I can go into, look, I know, sometimes you hear speakers and you feel like, oh God, that's a lot of baloney being thrown around. I'm going to do my best to be as direct and straight and honest with you as possible. There are going to be a lot of things that you know about this topic that I don't know about the topic. I'm going to bring you a particular perspective, a particular worldview, and my hope is that some of the things that I offer you, et cetera, et cetera. And then we have this really nice exchange where they go, okay, he is an expert, but he's also, cool about it. He's not coming up here trying to show off. Make sense? Okay, good. By the way, I saw a Jeff. Hi, Jan from Florida just came in. Gina says, can Amy move closer to the mic when she speaks?
I saw that and I scooched in.
Okay.
Thank you, Gina.
So there was one. Jeff Van Meter said, if you didn't answer yet, how would you say your heroic public speaking training differs from other speaker training? Why would someone pick you? And then you wrote, of course, I know the answer. Well, Jeff is being cheeky. Jeff was in our graduate level training program, which is the highest level training program that we offer. It's a conservatory type program. People come and work with us every month for 4 months on a particular speech. So Jeff, I'm going to ask you write that in instead of us, because it's better to hear it from you, and then we'll read it off and we'll see what you have to say about that. Okay. So Jake, which is our son's name, Jake, is a keynote presentation, in a keynote presentation, how do you transition from talking about really sad, impactful, real things into positive, funny, encouraging things? So these are transitions, and transitions are often where the space lies. This is where we give people time to move from one experience to another. And one of the principles that we teach is the principle of contrast. What makes something theatrically interesting is often contrast. There's delivery contrast. There's emotional contrast. There is structural or content contrast, among some others. So those are the three big ones. And delivery contrast is different ways of delivering that information. So you might use video, you might use slides, you might use, you might have sounds coming out of the speakers of crowds talking about something, relates to the issue at hand. You might be in the audience. You might have them interacting with each other, doing things. This is all different ways of delivering the content. Even if you're standing up there not saying anything and they're interacting with each other, that's a particular method for delivering that experience. And then emotional contrast, of course.
Which is exactly what he's asking about.
Yeah.
That's your point.
You want to go from, this very, very intense moment to a lighter moment. You want to go from a little fear to, security. You want people to be on the edge of their seats like a roller coaster ride. That's good. But often they need some room to breathe. One of the things that you'll often hear speaking coaches say is that you shouldn't speak too quickly. You talk too fast. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. And that certainly makes sense sometimes. What we encourage you to focus on is not the slowing down, but the pausing. Because it's in the pause that people are able to consume what you just shared. And if you share a story that is emotional or intense in some way, if you just quickly, boom, drop it and run onto something else, it's like, hey, what's up? That's too much contrast. That's contrast that I can't keep up with, and I can't recover from this story to get into that other piece.
Another piece that may help here, Jake, is your emotional presence. If when you are telling a story that has a good deal of weight to it and is perhaps about very heavy subjects, you being emotionally present with that, in control, in a way that's in control, then you take them on the journey with you, because you'll feel in the pause, in that silence, in that beat, how long you need before you can shift gears. And the more you rehearse, and it's one of the things we teach in great depth, both at Heroic Public Speaking Live and in programs like the graduate program that Jeff's going to write in about, we teach how to rehearse, because rehearsing is not something that we're typically taught how to do. And very often what we see is people who think rehearsing is kind of pacing around the hotel room, saying some of it out loud or running over it in the head, or just building a slide deck and using that as notes. But there's an art to rehearsal. And the more through rehearsing you are able to ride the waves yourself emotionally, from the heavy stuff to the now I'm going to shift the gears, the more your audience will be able to do that with you.
Yeah. If you have command of the material and of the stage, then your audience feels very comfortable. Mm-hmm. And they will make transitions quicker because they trust that you're taking them to a safe place. If an audience feels that the speaker isn't safe, or they don't feel safe themselves, and when I say safe, I don't necessarily mean going to fall off the stage, although that is relevant as well, which I did once.
It has happened.
But they feel emotionally safe, intellectually safe, that you're not going to make fun of them, put them down, that you're not going to deliver something that's just so incredibly hard to process and then act like it's no big deal and move on to something else. So the safety is very important. And, you know, one of the things that is very important for us as teachers, when you're at Heroic Public Speaking Live with us or in any of our other trainings, the first thing that everybody in the room is told, and there'll be, right now, they think there's 260 people registered for the live event. So maybe there'll be 300, more than that. Maybe there'll be 300 and something by the time February 15th rolls around. Every single person in that room is told, first things first, that if they put anyone down, if they intentionally criticize someone to them or behind their back, they are gone. They're just out, period. Because we are there to protect you. Often performing and speaking is anxiety provoking, and you need to take some risks and try new things, and often sharing stories that are very personal and difficult for you. And even if you don't do that kind of speaking, you're just presenting like how to do something technical, it still can be anxiety provoking,
and
because
it takes courage.
It takes a lot of courage. So that's what we do. And then our audience feels safer and they're more likely to have an extraordinary experience. And we want you to be able to do that same kind of thing with your audience. Doesn't mean you tell them if you do this, you're going to be kicked out. I don't do that when I go give a keynote at Trains America or Coldwell Banker, because it just would not be appropriate. I can make a joke about it, but I can't actually start kicking people out. At our event, I could. It's never happened. We've never had to do it, but it just sets the tone, which is important. Now, you were speaking about rehearsal. There's a question here about rehearsal.
Great.
So I want to answer the question about rehearsal. But right before I do that, I want to answer Debbie Clement's question. And then we're going to go to Patty Luenda's question. So Debbie asks, she says, I have established a speaking career in a very small niche that pays minimally typically. I occasionally am paid well within this little niche. My question, what suggestions do you have for leaping into a larger niche with a better infrastructure for stipend speaking? So that's Debbie's question. Thanks for the question. So let's go to some book yourself solid material for a second. Book Yourself Solid was the first book that I wrote, and it's a marketing system that ideally helps you fall in love with marketing and sales, because it's something we got to do, so might as well like it if we're going to have to do it. And I make a distinction in that system between target market and niche, and I think it's an important distinction. Now you might say, well, that's just semantics, but semantics are important when it comes to systematic thinking about a particular protocol. So I think there's a difference between target market and niche. Target market and niche, I think, are two different things. We conflate them often, but I think it's helpful to extricate them from each other. Because a target market is the demographic. It's the group of people or businesses that you serve. Whereas a niche is your area of specialty. It's what you get known for. And the reason I mention it now is because when you're thinking about speaking from a professional perspective, You want to think about those two things. Well, who's the target audience and what is my area of specialty? So you may have a target audience that is really tiny, but you have a very broad, appealing niche. So let's say your niche is social media, for lack of a better um, thing right now. So let's just say it's social media, but your target market are balloon twisters. Like the people who make the little balloons. There are a few associations for balloon twisters, but you're going to run out of gigs pretty quickly if you're just trying to target people who twist balloons. So if you choose a different target market, that broad, appealing topic of social media, although it probably presents a lot of competition, would be applicable to a much broader audience. However, on the flip side, let's say your audience is the digital media departments at businesses of a certain size. Well, that's a pretty big audience, and there's going to be lots of conferences for you to speak. So that's great. However, your topic is really so specific. It's like something about what you do on Tuesdays if somebody writes into the help desk at 3:30 p.m. and that's your specific area of expertise. People go, I don't think I'm paying big money just to learn that one thing from that person. So I'm using an extreme example to demonstrate the point, but what I want you to do is look at your target market and niche and look at them separately and then determine, is my target market broad enough to give me lots of opportunity for speaking gigs? And is my niche specialized enough to make me unique, but still appealing enough to a large number of associations, organizations, et cetera, that pay for this kind of work to really turn this into something profitable? Book Yourself Solid, as I said, was my first book, and I wrote it for service professionals. And there are a lot of associations that serve service professionals, and there are certainly companies that have service professionals in them. But what I realized about 2 years into that is that a lot of the big money is in the sales events, sales conferences. And of course, there's a lot about sales in Book Yourself Solid, but some of the meeting planners were looking at Book Yourself Solid as for small business, not for the sales teams at these large organizations. So I wrote The Contrarian Effect, which is about why it pays big to take typical sales advice and do the opposite. I wrote that in 2008, a long time ago, specifically because that would help reposition me in the minds of the meeting planners, the decision makers, as, oh, yes, he's an expert in the sales. I can bring him to come and talk to the sales departments. So if you're taking the professional track, you may think strategically about your choices. Now, I wouldn't start speaking on something that I either A, didn't know a lot about, or B, wasn't really interested in just because I thought it was a hot topic. Okay. I'm going to pass some of this rehearsal over to you, and we'll walk you through a rehearsal process, because Patty asked, yeah, she said, what is your process for rehearsing and remembering the contents of your speech once you've written it? Thank you for the great work and all that you do, by the way. You're welcome, Patty.
So that's two separate questions that are, of course, related. What is your process for rehearsing? Well, we have a 7-step protocol, thank you, love, for rehearsing. And it starts with sitting down at the table, doing a table read. It's what's done in any theatrical rehearsal situation. Television, film, just a sitting down and starting to say the words out loud. Get your mouth used to saying them, get your ear used to hearing them, because sometimes we'll write words on a page in a writing style that's different than how we would normally speak. So we get to learn very quickly, are we writing in a way that actually sounds natural when it comes out of our mouth? So we start with table reads. The second step in this protocol is what we call content mapping. Earlier, Michael referred to, if you do Shakespeare, you can take some of that technique and bring it into whatever you do. And we see that very directly in content mapping. In content mapping, and we teach this in all of our programs, you go through your script, whether it's an outline or it's a word-for-word script, and you start to look for things. You look for, where are the beats? Where do I need to pause and let the audience absorb and digest what it is I just said? We look for, where are the operative words? Meaning, what are the words in any given sentence that communicate the meaning? I could have said that sentence very differently. I could have said, what are the words in each sentence that communicates the meaning? I hit different words. Now, some of this is going to seem perhaps obvious, right? that there's a natural way to hit the most appropriate words in a sentence. But you might be surprised in doing this work because there are some people who have the habit of hitting equally every word, which is very hard to listen to over time. And there are other people who throw away every word as if none of them matter.
Mm-hmm.
So in content mapping, we look at beats, we look at operative words, we look at how to deal with lists, how to find the contrast between one idea and another idea. We go through and we actually mark up the script. So that's the second step. So first we do table read, then we do content mapping, and then we start to do what we call putting it on its feet, mm-hmm. which is blocking. That's the theatrical term for it, blocking. That's figuring out how you're going to actually move on the stage. Those of you out there who have been giving presentations or simply watching presentations.
Oh, let me show them how this works.
Yes. Oh, good. Michael gives a good demo.
You're not going to be able to see much more than my legs. Let me see what I have here. Hold on. Okay, let's see. All right, I don't need to see more than my legs, but most speakers,
so funny.
You'll see on the stage. Let me move this light out of the way. This is what you see for the most part, like this.
Except with a head.
Except with the head.
Can you get shorter?
It's just back and forth, like this. Back and forth. This is what you see wandering. And sometimes it goes fast, and then back, like this.
And people pace.
The pacing. So because look, when you get on stage and you don't know where you're supposed to be, you've got all this energy and you want to do something with it. So it's perfectly natural that you would want to move. If you are prepared and you've blocked your presentation, the reason it's called blocking is because in the 19th century, when directors would stage their plays, they would have little blocks that they would use to represent the actors, and they'd move them around. I don't know what they were saying about the actors, but nonetheless, that's how the term came into being. Blockhead. So,
not really.
The movement also, you're painting a picture on the stage.
Yes, people ask about visuals all the time, and that's something else that we can talk about, of course, but you are the most important visual on the stage.
Yeah, let me highlight that because, I don't use a lot of slides when I present. Often I use no slides at all. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a picture on the stage. I'm painting a picture so that they can see the experience as well as just hear it or just watch it on a slide. And when you are able to paint the picture physically, it's often more alive for them. It's very different than a one-dimensional flat image on a screen. Now, there are times when using slides is great. The question has ever been to use slides or not to use slides. That's not the question. Of course, it's how you use something that really matters when it comes to performance, and it's an art. So there isn't one way to do any of it. It's very important. Our philosophy when it comes to this work is that there isn't one way to do any of this work. When we're directing you, we together are making different choices about your work so that it is most influential, so that it makes the most connection, makes the most impact, because your job is to get people to think differently, to feel differently, and to act differently. And the work that you do is determined by the choices you make. So there aren't right choices and wrong choices. There are simply more effective choices. And what we are trying to do is keep finding the most effective choices. And the more skilled you get, the more efficient you are with your choices and the more impactful you are with your choices. But, each time we finish something, if we get off the stage, we'll do a postmortem and figure out, I think we need to work on this because I think the choice that I was making here is not creating the desired effect. I want to create this effect, and I need a different choice to create that effect. And so what you hear us talking about is that your job is to make choices that affect the audience. It's never about you. It's always about them.
That's right.
Often speakers will say, what should I do? Well, it's not about you doing something. It's what you're doing to the people or for the people in the room. That's what makes a difference. Now, one of the questions here, we'll pick up on rehearsal in just one sec. Yeah. We'll get back to that. I want to make that a two-part process. By the way, if you ever say you're going to unpack it, then you need to unpack it. But she gave you the first three, I think. Right?
Yeah, I think If I may,
Yeah.
what I want to just say is, okay, so there are 4 more steps to this, and obviously we're getting more into the micro level. And given how many questions we have coming in, we may not hit all of them on that level. But you'll bring in other people to watch, and you'll move through tech and dress and all of those elements, bringing in costume and media. They're all different levels, but there's a protocol to work through, and that's the most important thing I think to know.
Yeah, and also to respect yourself and appreciate yourself, that there's no reason that you would know how to rehearse.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in graduate school. I think the price for heroic public speaking is pretty darn good compared to what we spent on graduate together. I'd say, what did we spend? $800,000? No, yeah, probably $700,000 on graduate school. And what was my point? The point was, what was my point?
You're not expected to know how to do this.
We were trained in this. This is what we were trained to do. There weren't classes in high school or college or medical school or in your MBA program that taught you how to rehearse. So often what's expected of people who are not professional performers is unrealistic because they've never had the training. And so people often ask us, well, what's the best thing to do to reduce anxiety and stage fright? And I think the best thing you can do is to know what you're doing.
Really know what you're doing. Yes.
The better prepared you are, the more in the moment you can be, and the more improvisational you can be, the more authentic your performance. So rehearsal actually can make your performance more authentic rather than less. Because if you're not well prepared, you're often very nervous and tight and constrained. And as a result, you're not able to express yourself fully and have an impact on the audience in the way that you want.
Not even able to be fully present with the audience. That's the thing. If your mind is scrambling to, oh my gosh, what did I do in rehearsal? Or what do I need to be remembering about my blocking?
Yeah.
Well, then you're not able to have what is actually a dialogue with the audience. Performance, even if it's just you speaking, is not a monologue. It is a dialogue between you and the audience. The audience's lines are just silent, but we respond to what they might be thinking. We respond to how we see them responding. And for that dialogue to happen in an authentic way requires that you know your material inside and out.
And one of the reasons that people often push back about rehearsal is they say that, well, I tried some rehearsal and it didn't work. I felt really stiff when I was up there. And I think the reason that they push back is accurate. I think that that's the experience they had. It makes perfect sense to me, because if you rehearse a little bit, often what happens is while you're performing, you're trying to recall what you had worked on. And as a result, you're not in the moment. You're trying to recall what you had worked on, and you can't really, you're reaching for it. And then you feel stiff and you're often a little clunky. But if you know your material so well that you can throw it out so you don't have to worry about it, well, then you actually are a lot more authentic, even if what you've said 800 times before, because you've rehearsed it or you've performed it so well over time. I mean, you don't go to a Broadway play and expect that the first time that they've ever done that performance is that day. They've been working on this out of respect for you as an audience member.
We have a question here from Sherry who says, are we supposed to come to the training with our speeches? Sorry, I missed the memo on that one. No,
you don't have to, not at all. You can come with absolutely no idea what you'd speak on, or you could come as a seasoned speaker. We have both. We have people who are in the business for years and years, making a lot of money speaking, who come as attendees, and not just the people we're putting on stage, but as attendees. And then we have people who are brand new, never given a speech that they've been paid for, or are just starting out trying to give some speeches, have no desire to ever give speeches and get paid, but they want to do it because they want to promote their business or share a message. And so this group works very, very well together because artists respect artists. And I think you guys are artists, and the support is really, really, really wonderful to see. So now let's answer, let's see, where was the second question that I was going to answer? Did I answer that one? Yeah, it was Patty's about rehearsal.
Mhm.
So Patty asked the process for rehearsal, remembering the contents of your speech once you've written it. So let me just address the remembering the contents of the
Perfect.
speech.
Great. Excellent.
You can memorize your speeches word for word. If you write it out word for word, you can memorize it word for word, no problem. Or you can write out an outline with key points, rehearse, know your material, and then work off of that structure and be more improvisational inside it. One is not better than the other. One is not worse than the other. They're different ways of performing. And I have two main keynotes that I do historically. And one of them is completely memorized, like a play. It's a one-man show. And the other one is much more improvisational. I've been doing it for almost 13 years. Evolved versions of it over time. The first few times I gave it probably sucked. But that's what the artist knows. The artist knows that they get better over time. One of those reasons people don't like to rehearse is because they don't feel like it's good when they're rehearsing, and then they stop. Well, I'll just rise to the occasion on the day, which doesn't really happen. The military says you do not rise to the occasion, you fall back on your training. And we believe the same thing. When the stakes are high and you get out there and you're not prepared, it's unlikely you're going to rise to the occasion and give the most brilliant speech. But if you're well prepared, if you're well trained, then you will fall back on that training. And if that training is good, solid training, you'll do a great job.
Adrenaline does not mean you did a great job.
Right.
Sometimes people who get out there and go, well, I'll just wing it. I'll ride on the adrenaline. What the experience is they might get off the stage and not even remember what they did because the adrenaline was just pumping through.
If you can't remember what you did after a speech, then you probably weren't in the moment.
That's right.
There's a big difference between professionals and amateurs. Professionals are able to watch themselves, see themselves. They know what they're doing at all times. Mm-hmm. And they're able to process information and stay in the moment and deliver to the audience. It's all these different things. Your brain is incredibly capable. And that just takes time. It takes hours of rehearsal and experience. And you can do that if you're willing, to make the commitment to this kind of work.
Okay. So on the other side of that, and I know we probably have time for only a few more questions here, but from Gary, he says, I know you guys are about building a great foundation, but let's say you had an hour or two to get someone ready for their very first presentation. Where would you focus your attention and coaching most, assuming this person has the most common issues you two have found? Or otherwise, where do most people flub up? Mm-hmm. Thanks. So if you had an hour, where would you focus your attention and coaching?
I think there would be a few places. The first thing we want to make sure is that the speech has a very clear, big idea. Mm-hmm. There is a very clear promise, which is a deliverable to the audience. The speaker can demonstrate that they know what the world looks like to that audience. The speaker can articulate the negative consequences of not adopting that big idea for the audience and the rewards of adopting that big idea. So the big idea, the promise that is the deliverable to the audience, what they want, being able to demonstrate that you know how the world looks to them, the consequences of not adopting the big idea, the things that would be painful, like you do not want this to happen, and of course the rewards, because that's the thing that people are moving toward. That's the fruit of the labor, so to speak. Those elements really should be in place. So we want to make sure that those are crystal clear. Then for each individual, it would be different. Then we'd probably be looking at, well, is there anything that this individual is doing performance-wise that would significantly impact their ability to connect with the audience, even if those elements are in place and their content is really rich? So do they spend a lot of time looking down at the ground and not connecting with the audience? Well, we got to get them connecting with the audience. It's sort of like, imagine if we did the whole presentation where we were talking like this, both of us look down. So we're just the whole time, just like this. And we didn't really look at you. That'd be, I guess, like a radio program. But if we're here with a camera, we need to look at you. We're looking right into the lens. And of course, then we'll go and read the question. Then we come back to you. Somebody else may wander around, pace. We just try to get them, even if it was just standing, if it was a 15-minute speech, I'd rather see them standing in one place for 15 minutes, strongly supported by their feet, rooted in the ground, than wandering aimlessly around the stage. So those are some of the things we'd look at right at the beginning to make sure that they're safe if we only had that hour. Okay. Mal says, I am Mal Dwayne, is her last name, from Boston, Mass. Will be in Florida in February. Excited to be there. Having a brain freeze on creating my speech performance, reading chapter 10 in Steal the Show Now. Nice work. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to give you a quick introduction to just the link and the discount link for Heroic Public Speaking Live next month. And then we'll take a few more questions, just a few. Then we're going to outline the program, and then we'll answer questions about the program. So we said the call will be, or the stream will be 60 to 90 minutes. So we are at right now 50. So we're on perfect schedule.
Perfect.
I would, and of course, all the questions that you asked that we didn't get to, because there's hundreds of people here, we will certainly answer in Florida when you're with us. Hint, hint. Okay. So heroicpublicspeaking.com/live, heroicpublicspeaking.com/live is the event page. It describes the entire event. So you get to see who's going to be there teaching. It's a pretty extraordinary group of people. And I actually get a little bit like choked up when I think about it, because our professors from graduate school, from Yale and NYU, come and teach and now work with us to teach our students. And it's a pretty extraordinary feeling for us that we can bring them to you.
And you cannot get access to these people otherwise.
Yeah.
Thousands of people apply to get into these teeny tiny programs that take 16 students a year or 20 students a year. That's the only way to get these professors other than here. 1,500
people applied, probably the same for you, maybe more at Yale. 1,500 people applied to my class and they took 18. That's generally how it works. So anyhow.
They're incredible.
But if you want
teachers.
a discount, so that's what I was going for. If you want a discount, like you don't want to pay the full price, you can pay the full price if you want. But if you don't want to pay the full price, you can have a discount. And you can have $250 off of the regular price because you were here today. And it gives us the ability to give you a little incentive to say, you know what, I'm going to get off the fence. I'm in. Let's go. I'll see you in Florida. And in order to get that discount, you're not going to get it on the regular page that I just gave you, heroicpublicspeaking.com/live. Well, that's where all the details are. But if you want to come and get that discount, then you need to go to
heroicpublicspeaking.com/250. Just the number 250. heroicpublicspeaking.com/250. 250.
And that page is just an order form. So you want to make sure you read the sales page so you know where you're getting into. And then you can use that special link, heroicpublicspeaking.com/250. And that will give you the discount so you don't have to pay the full price. Okay.
How long is that discount good for?
Like the next 1.5 minutes.
See, that's the sense of humor injected in for a little bit of contrast. It won't be up forever.
No, it will be up for 24 hours. So you got 24 hours. And the clock is ticking.
Yes, which means that if you're watching this later than the live time, you better click on that sooner rather than later.
That's right. And if you have any questions, any specific questions that you need answered, just send an email to questions@michaelport.com. That's questions@michaelport.com. And one of the team members will get right back to you with the answers that you need. Okay. So, we're going to see Tumble Road said, HBS Live last year was amazing. Come for the practice and training, stay for the networking. Absolutely.
That's one of the things that is phenomenal about the community of people who do these programs. People make incredible friendships, but also the networking, as Tumble Road just mentioned. I have been fascinated by how many people's careers just start to skyrocket out of these events because of the people that they are now in connection with.
Yeah. Summer said, do you eat certain diet to avoid problems with your voice in a way that's different on performance days? Yeah, you do. The voice, there are going to be voice lessons at the event, and those are some of the things you'll cover. But absolutely, you'll stay away from things like dairy, citrus, alcohol. You're going to drink a lot of water because citrus will irritate the acid, and the dairy will create mucus. And of course, the alcohol will put you to sleep. And dehydrate you.
And dehydrate your vocal cords. Okay. So if you know that you have vocal issues, those are a couple good places to start.
All right, Jeff Van Meter, I'm going to read his, and then I'm going to just talk to you a little bit more about the program, and you can ask questions about it. If you either are already registered or you live on Mars and can't come, and you need to go now, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to work with you, try to get into as many questions as we can. We believe that all people have a story to tell, and the willingness to tell it is more important than your current skill level, because you can build skill quite quickly if you have a great desire. So if your desire is stronger than your fear, then you will be able to deliver with even just some training. Okay, so here's what Jeff Van Meter said. He said, here are several reasons. Number one, because Michael and Amy have MFAs. Their perspective on performance is like nothing any other training gives you. This is what Jeff said. We didn't say that. I agree, but that's what Jeff said. While there are some techniques that they teach, it's more the overall approach to being in front of people and serving them.
Yes.
And number two, as anyone watching this video can see, they love doing this. They were made to do this. Number three, they are totally genuine. What you see today is what they will bring to the live event and the graduate program. Number four, the environment is 100% safe. Number five, they will take you wherever you are and move you to the next level, quote, or in my case, up several levels. I could go on and on, but damn it, you should go do this and you should do the grad program. And no, I did not get paid for this endorsement. Actually, no, Jeff just gets spankings from me, which if you come to the live event, I will show you and tell you exactly why and how it has helped him in his career to get a few heroic public spankings. Okay, and he's a doctor too, so he got a great sense of humor. So let's talk a bit about Heroic Public Speaking Live, February 15, 16, and 17. If you have any questions, you can put those in now. Make sure that you ask them. Don't hold them back. Any question is fine. So it's 3 days. And the goal of the event is to ensure that you're a better public speaker when you leave. That's our goal, and that's our promise. That's what we can deliver. You will feel that. You'll do it in a safe place. You'll do it in an encouraging place. You'll do it in an inspiring place. You'll do it in a beautiful place. We rent out the Broward County Center for the Performing Arts. We don't want you in a hotel room. We want you in a theater, in an arts center.
We have great reverence for the stage. Because of our background, we have a great respect and reverence for the stage. It feels very different to be on a stage than it does in the front of a room in a conference center. And while you may sometimes perform there, we're encouraging you to stop speaking and start performing. So that atmosphere makes a difference.
And you can take that atmosphere with you into small conference rooms. You're not going to get up and do a song and a dance, although you may, but we're not asking for that. We're just asking for more connection, and theatricality often produces it. But you can see we're not over the top. Like, hi, how are you? So great to have you here. Jazz hands, like that's not what this is about. It's something else entirely. Okay. So that's our promise. And we have it in Florida because it's such a warm, beautiful place. So each night we put on different events that you can go to connect, network, and to enjoy yourself. And they often end up in the pool, which is fun. The first day is focused on stagecraft. This is the skill that you need to have in order to perform on the stage or in front of a group of people in a hotel room or in front of a conference table or even in front of two people when you're trying to pitch an idea to somebody.
Even in front of a camera.
And in front of a camera. So you will do all of these things on the first day. You will be in voice class, working on your breathing and the sound of your voice, your ability to project, to sound like you have gravitas, there's meaning, to find pitch and tone and resonance. People learn a lot about us from the sound of our voice. In fact, do you know how I met Amy? This is a good one. I met Amy 6 years ago in a parking lot at the Buckingham Friends School, where both of our boys went. Leo is now 12, Jake is turning 11 this week. And so they were in different grades, but they were both at aftercare. Aftercare, most people have that. After school, when you can't pick the kid up early, they go to aftercare. And I got out of my car and I heard a voice across the parking lot, about 60 to 70 feet away. I thought, that's a great voice. I turned over, I saw Amy. She was in the middle of a conversation. I walked up to her and said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I am interrupting because I have a question. Are you an actor? She said, yes. No, I mean, I was. Why? I said, where did you train? She says, Yale. I said, what years were you there? She told me. I said, I was at NYU grad program, same year. She goes, how'd you know I was an actor? I said, your voice. You have a trained voice. You have a resonant, big, open voice that I can tell is trained, and I can tell from your speech, etc. That's how we met. So if you're still looking for the love of your life, a little voice training may not hurt, may actually help you meet them. So this is number one. Then also, you're also going to work on your movement, because the way that you move, again, tells the world something about you. And this is going to help you on the stage, in front of a boardroom or in a hotel room. And it's going to help you anytime you walk anywhere and want to make an impression upon people physically. So the voice teacher comes from Yale. She's Amy's teacher originally. She's now the head of the acting and voice program at UC San Diego. And the movement teacher comes from the grad acting program at NYU. She's the current movement teacher there. And she's going to teach you how to move with presence, how to move with power, how to feel comfortable in your body, how to look powerful.
So never again will you worry about what to do with your hands while presenting, because you will embody yourself in a very different way.
None of our students have ever asked us, once they start training, what do I do with my hands? They may have asked that question before they started working with us. And then we say, don't worry about it. You'll see. And then after that, it's never a question. The way that you perform on stage should be as comfortable and as natural and as authentic as the way that you are when you're sitting with your children, people you're most comfortable with. So that's movement, so voice, movement, and improvisation. We bring the graduate acting program from NYU improv teacher, who was my teacher when I was there. I also made a film with him a number of years ago. So he's a film director, a television commercial director, and an improv teacher. And he was there last year and he brought the house down. And it was not just because he dropped his pants. He was wearing underwear, but the crowd asked him to, and he did it. And he was demonstrating taking risks. And he's going to repeat it again this year. God help us. But what's really important about this work is that a lot of your value as a performer is your ability to improv. Your connection with an audience is in large part based on your ability to improv with them. Things are always going to go wrong and things are going to change, and you're going to need to change on the fly. But more than that, it's about how to read audiences, how to connect with them, how to be more creative yourself. And one of the stages of rehearsal is using improv to improve your content. So content is not just created at the computer screen, it's created in rehearsal through improv. So you create your content, you do your table work, then you do your content mapping, first your table reads, then your content mapping, then you get up on your feet and block, and then you start improvising and working with, and you go, I see an opportunity for a change. I know what it is. Then you go down, rewrite it, print it, go back. So improv is very important. Additionally, on that first day, you're also going to observe Amy and I teaching master classes. So we're going to put people on the stage. They will perform and we will coach them live. And if you've seen any of the videos that we've done, you know how remarkable that is and how different it is each time we do it for each person. Jordan Harbinger, who is the host of Art of Charm, they get about 2 million plus downloads every month, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. He came to the live event last year and we didn't know each other very well, but he showed up. He's a great podcaster, but he felt a little lost on stage. He didn't know what to do. And he saw us deliver or teach the first masterclass. And he said to himself, mind you, he told us later, but he said, I think this is staged, because there's no way that person could have gone from that average to that good that fast. And it was just 45 minutes. And then he saw us do it later and he goes, could they really have staged this again? I mean, think of how much work it would have taken to stage them going from not good to, to great. And then he saw it again and again. And then he came and worked with us in the graduate program for 4 months and is now become one of our favorite students and really a great friend as well.
If you want to be one of the people who receives that live coaching, a masterclass on stage, do we have one spot left? We don't.
No, those are sold out. I think, as far as I know, I think those are sold out. So in any event, you'll get to witness that. And so you do all of those things on the first day. So it's a busy day. So you're up on your feet the whole time, except for that one session where you're watching the masterclass. So it's a very engaged day. Second day has 2 tracks, 2. And we do this to give you some variety and the opportunity to choose. One of the tracks on the first day includes a big chunk focused on content creation that Amy and I will teach. Maybe you don't have a speech yet, or maybe you have something but it needs to be worked on, or maybe you have something that you need to throw away and start again. You might want to come to that session. We also have a session that day focused on storytelling specifically, how to source stories. How do you find the stories that will make great stories for a speech? You'll find those stories and you'll write those stories, and you might even perform some of those stories if you want. You're never asked to perform anything unless you want. So that's the content creation part of the day. There's also
a second track. The first class in the second track is with Dan Cordell, and it's about creating content on the fly in front of the camera.
Dan was the director and improv teacher.
Now, the good news is, whether you do track 1 or track 2, there's a class first for the entire group with Dan. So you get an on-camera class with him no matter what. But the second track involves a class specifically for improving in front of the camera, creating content on the fly, so that whether you are creating content that you are producing and marketing and putting out into the world, or giving interviews or doing webinars, that you have content that you can create on the fly and can do that with ease and use that time well. The second class is with me, and that's a class all on the art of rehearsing. So you'll get in depth that 7-step protocol, and whatever content you have to work with, or there will be some provided to you that you can experiment with if you don't have any, you'll go through that process so that you walk away with a full and complete system for how to rehearse once you have your content or a draft of it.
Jenna asked, can we repeat the link? Her feed keeps cutting out. She's having some internet problems. So the link, of course, for the website that describes the whole program is heroicpublicspeaking.com/live. And the special link to get a $250 discount is heroicpublicspeaking.com/250, the number 250. So you can get $250 off. That's just an order link so that you don't buy it on the main page. You just buy it there and get $250 off.
2 other logistical questions before we get into day 3. One, Leah asks, is room and board included in the conference fee?
No.
It is not. The conference fee is for the training you receive with us. Liz Wilder asks, can you please ask if there are attendees willing to share hotel rooms? So here's the thing. Once you purchase your ticket, you get access to the Heroic Public Speaking Facebook page, where people put in there quite commonly, I'm looking for a roommate at live. Please contact me. And it's fascinating to see how quickly the community forms and people find roommates really quite easily.
Yeah, and that's a private community that you only have access to when you've been a student in one of our programs like this. The third, or but there's also more on day 2 is the rehearsal component. There's a whole class that Amy's teaching on rehearsal. The rehearsal process, how to rehearse, get up on your feet and do it, so that when you go home and you're working on your speeches, you also know how to rehearse them so you can perform them well. It's another big day. And then on the third day we call the funny business of speaking. We know how much you want to talk about the business of speaking. So we love to focus on the performance side. So we bring in some of our friends. And fortunately, we've got friends who are the top level speakers in the world. So just scroll to the list and I'll read off some of our friends that are coming. We're going to sit on panels throughout 2 different sessions during the day to answer the panelists' questions, which is probably us, and your questions. So Scott McCain is coming. Now, Scott is an NSA Hall of Fame speaker. He is one of the busiest speakers working in the business today, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, a voice like velvet. And he is going to be there answering your questions. And I am just so honored that he is coming. There's Jackie Huba. She has been speaking in the industry for 15 years. She is the author of Monster Loyalty, How Lady Gaga Turns Followers into Fanatics. Super, super cool. And go up for a second, please. No, go back to her. Okay. I wanted to give you this because you may be familiar with this. Yeah, so she co-authored the award-winning Church of the Customer blog, which has 105,000 daily readers. So she's a business person with a lot of experience and a well-known professional speaker. Then there's Krista Haberstock. Now, Krista's an agent. She's going to be there talking about what an agent does, what a bureau does, how you can get an agent to represent you, how you can get a bureau to represent you. And that's a pretty big part of the business if you're interested in becoming a professional at some point. Bob Berg is going to be there. Bob Berg, kindest man ever to walk the face of the earth. Yeah. He wrote The Go-Giver, which has been, I think, sold 500,000 copies. He is another professional speaker. I mean, these are speakers who are all at the $30,000 range. I mean, they're high-level speakers. He speaks all the time, and he's going to be there as well. Mike Michalowicz, great friend of mine. We're collaborating on a project right now together. He's written numerous books. Don't you just go? Can you leave it where it is? Thank you very much. He wrote the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, The Pumpkin Plan, what's the one right now? Profit First, and he speaks nonstop. But the thing about him that's so interesting is that he hacked his way into the system in such a clever way that you will get such practical, like real world on the ground tips from him and he's really funny too, and handsome. If you like handsome, he's quite handsome.
He's very funny.
Okay.
And handsome.
Yeah. Keep going.
That's it.
Okay. Now that's just the panel part. I mean, there's 2 panels with those folks on it, but we're also going to do a session, as I mentioned earlier, with Ron Tite on that third day about using humor in your speeches, which is going to be another really fun session on how to be funnier. So it's another very full day as well. So you can see how we work this. We designed this the way that a conservatory program in theater is designed. Stagecraft, you got to know your stagecraft first. Then you can get into the content creation, the storytelling, the on-camera work,
rehearsal and performance,
and then learn about the business. If you just focus on the business side of things, if you have any interest in being a professional speaker, not suggesting you need to, but if you just focus on that and you don't become best in class, it's going to be hard to get booked. You want to get booked as a speaker, be best in class first. You know, that's such an important part of the process.
So just want to run them by you again. To see the event and all the details about the event, go to heroicpublicspeaking.com/live. If you want your direct link, that'll be up for the next 24 to 48 hours. With your discount, it's heroicpublicspeaking.com/250.
There we go. I know all the internet marketers put all sorts of things on the screen that you click and shout at you and stuff, but we figure just telling you would be sufficient. And about 40% of the people who are at the event this year were there last year, which says something about the event, I would think. It says something about the kind of people that will be there. They're professionals and they're in pursuit of mastery. So they're very serious about this. And they have a lot of fun too. Sometimes a little too much fun. Sometimes a little too much fun. But the third day starts a little later than the first 2, just in case you stay up a little late on either of those first days. So any questions, please feel free to put them in here. Can you have the charger? Sure. Here you go. So a question from Darden. I'm going to answer this for you, Darden. Hi, I want to plan flights and hotel. Fantastic. I see there's a voucher for $500 for the How to Get Paid and Book to Speed one-day pre-conference summit on February 14th. So we didn't talk about this because that's a pre-conference that's just available for people who register for the event, and you get a special coupon for it. So that's just, if you're like, what, pre-con? There is an event on the 14th also that is for people who are also coming to the main event if they choose to register for that. And about, I think, 60 people are registered for that one. So she says, when does that begin on the 14th, and what does the workshop, when does the workshop end? So on the 14th, it's 9 to 5, and I'll be there for part of that as well. So that's on 9 to 5 on that pre-con day on the 14th. Okay, so clearly I think you've already registered for the main event, which is great. And now you have the opportunity to also be involved in the pre-show. Okay, great. Any other questions that we may be able to answer for you? Another question came in about whether or not they need to have experience, and if they need to have a script. So I think someone mentioned this before, but I just want to reiterate. So I'm glad the question came in again. You don't have to have anything. You can come a complete blank piece of paper with a beginner's mind, nothing. And we work with people that are A-listers. We do special custom private events for people who are what would be considered A-listers in the business. And we work with people who are absolutely brand new. We'll go into corporations, work with people who
are medical writers.
Yeah, medical writers who have to do videos, and they, don't typically like to speak, but they got to do it. So we work across the board, and we have so much respect for your individuality. Sometimes people ask us about, like, what's your style? Like, what's the formula that you teach? And we have very specific processes and formulas for certain aspects of content creation. Just like there's a 3-act structure in playwriting that is a very helpful device. So we have devices that you can use for that. When it comes to performance, you're an individual, and we want you performing as an individual. We don't want you to look like us. We don't want you to look like somebody that we trained. We want you to look completely natural. So you could take 10 speakers, all of whom we've trained, all give killer performances, and you would not see anything that's the same except this. They don't do the things that shouldn't be done. There's no like, here's how you start. You have to start with this. Oh, here's how you close. That doesn't exist. Each individual develops their own style, and we work with you to bring that out. That's really important to us. So when I was at grad school, people asked all the time, they probably asked you the same thing. Oh, so what method do you guys learn at, the NYU grad program? Because NYU is a little different than Yale, and that NYU has this undergrad department that's huge. There's thousands of people in the acting program in undergrad, and they have all these different schools. So there's the Meisner School, and there's the Atlantic Theater Company, and there's all these. So they get this idea that there's a method, but there is no method. What we were taught to do is, it sounds interesting, even though we were taught to be actors that could play any characters, we were actually taught to be more ourselves. Because the more honest we were, the more open and available we were, the more transformative we could be. We could transform into so many different things if we stripped away all those layers of persona that we wrap ourselves in to protect us. And I think Amy's training was the same way.
Absolutely. And what you will walk away with is not only an ability to be more fully yourself, naturally, genuinely on stage, but you'll also walk away with systems, protocols that you can apply to any piece you're working on. So for the students who go through our graduate program, it's not just that they work on one keynote or one TED style talk. They'll work on one piece, but walk out with a way of working that they can apply to absolutely anything they create in the future.
That's right. Absolutely. Okay. So I think what we're going to do is start to wrap it up here. So thank you so much for being part of this. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Amy, for joining me today.
Thank you, sir.
I will see you in the kitchen afterwards. Would you like to have a snack?
Let's have a snack.
Okay. And remember, heroicpublicspeaking.com/live. And the discount is heroicpublicspeaking.com/250.
And if you have questions, please email questions@michaelport.com.
And we hope to see you in 4 weeks from day after tomorrow.
Wow, really?
We're ready. We were working 8 hours a day, 10 people on the team, just nonstop. We're going to be ready for you. So hope you're ready for us. Bye now.